Have you ever wondered why commercial airplanes don't just fill up with regular gasoline like a car? At first glance, it might seem more practical, but it would be a recipe for disaster. Stick around because what you're about to hear will change the way you look at airplanes. No, it's not gasoline. Commercial airplanes are filled with a special kerosene-based fuel called Jet A-1. And no, it's not that they want to charge you more for the ticket. Your safety in the air literally depends on this. First, safety. Car gasoline is extremely volatile. It ignites at about -40 degrees Celsius. And remember that in mid-flight, outside the cabin, the air can be -50 degrees Celsius. At that altitude and with that volatility, any spark could turn the plane into a firework. Kerosene, on the other hand, needs much higher temperatures to ignite, between 38 degrees Celsius and 72 degrees Celsius. It's stable, safe, and reliable. Second, the engine. Commercial aircraft engines are gas turbines. They work perfectly with heavy fuels like kerosene. But if you put gasoline in them, it burns so fast that you could cause detonations or premature ignitions. It's not a risk, it's a certainty. Third, extreme cold. At over 10 kilometers altitude, any fuel that can't withstand the cold would freeze. Jet A-1 handles temperatures down to -47 degrees Celsius without a problem. Gasoline, on the other hand, could form ice crystals in the lines and leave you without an engine mid-flight. And pay attention to this: price and availability. Kerosene is cheaper to produce in large quantities than high-octane gasoline, and it's available at practically every airport on the planet. Aviation gasoline, on the other hand, is expensive and hard to find. Also, in many countries, kerosene for international flights is tax-free, which makes it even more competitive. One of the big advantages of Jet A-1 is that it meets very strict international standards like ASTM in the United States or DFSTAN in the United Kingdom. This ensures that a plane can refuel in Tokyo, fly to New York, and take off again without worrying about changes in fuel composition or performance. That uniformity is essential for safe and globalized aviation. In addition, Jet A-1 includes additives that prevent ice formation in the lines and reduce internal corrosion, something critical in engines that operate at extreme temperatures. It also has a perfect energy density, enough to provide great range without adding excessive weight, because every extra kilo reduces the payload and increases fuel consumption. Even in the military world, which sometimes uses special fuels for certain missions, kerosene remains the preferred choice due to its stability and compatibility with high-power engines, from supersonic fighters to giants like the C-17 Globemaster. And if we change them, that's where things get dangerous. If you put jet fuel in a car, it won't explode, but it will damage the engine. Now, if you put car gasoline in a plane that uses kerosene, the vapors that would form at high altitude could cause an abrupt combustion. And that in mid-flight is not told as an anecdote, it's told as a tragedy. But what about those planes that fly on cooking oil? Yes, you read that right. Recycled cooking oil. In 2017, Hainan Airlines made a transoceanic flight between Beijing and Chicago in a Boeing 787 using biofuel made from recovered vegetable oil from restaurants. The result was impressive: 0 performance problems and up to 80% fewer emissions than with conventional kerosene. These fuels, called SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel, can be produced from organic waste, animal fats, algae, or even through synthetic processes with hydrogen and carbon dioxide. And here's the best part: you can mix SAF with kerosene and use it in any current aircraft without modifying engines or tanks. Look at this timeline, because this is where the future of aviation begins. In 2011, Lufthansa approved flights between Hamburg and Frankfurt for 6 months using a biokerosene blend in an Airbus A321. In 2018, Qantas made history with the first trans-Pacific flight powered by mustard seed biofuel. In 2019, KLM launched the first regular route, partially powered by recycled cooking oil. In 2022, United Airlines surprised the world by flying with an engine running 100% on SAF, without a drop of fossil kerosene. And in 2023, Gulfstream certified its private jets to fly on 100% sustainable fuel straight from the factory. SAF can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 80% over its entire life cycle. Plus, it produces fewer particles and less sulfur. But here's the problem. In 2024, it barely covered 0.3% of the world's aviation fuel demand. It's expensive, costing 2 to 5 times more than kerosene, and producing it on a large scale isn't easy. Europe already requires a minimum of 2% SAF by 2025 and 6% by 2030. And the United States aims to produce 11 billion liters by 2030, covering 10% of its consumption. At the same time, energy companies like Repsol, BP, and Total are converting refineries to process waste into biokerosene, while specialized companies like Neste and World Energy are expanding their capacity to meet the growing demand. And that's not all. Now comes the interesting part. But first, like and subscribe so you don't miss a single detail of this video. It's not all SAF, there are also electric planes. And while we won't see an electric Boeing 787 soon, prototypes have already flown. The Aviation Alice, for example, is 100% electric, has 9 seats, and a range of 815 kilometers. In Europe, the Heart, Aerospace ES30 combines electricity with a hybrid system for flights up to 400 kilometers. And in 2021, the Rolls-Royce Spirit of Innovation broke records, reaching 620 kilometers per h with pure electric power. There's no mystery here. There are no direct emissions if the electricity comes from clean sources. Noise is drastically reduced, something that those living near airports would appreciate. Maintenance is simpler, with no turbines, no combustion, fewer parts to check. And short routes could open up, even from small airfields or urban vertiports. The big obstacle is energy. Kerosene stores 50 times more energy per kilo than lithium batteries. This limits the range and size of electric planes. In addition, rapid charging infrastructure at airports and specific regulations for this technology are needed. And although it sounds far off, hydrogen is also in the race. It can be used to generate electricity on board or as direct fuel. And companies like Airbus already have plans for commercial hydrogen aircraft in 15 years. And this is really important. Before 2030, it's very likely that there will be commercial flights of less than 500 kilometers that are completely electric. Norway, for example, wants to electrify all its short domestic flights by 2040. For long distances, hybrids and hydrogen will be key. Aviation is entering a historical transition phase from traditional kerosene to recycled fuels, and later to electricity and clean technologies. The sky of the future will not only be greener, it will also be much quieter. And this isn't the only surprising thing. This video you see on screen will really blow your mind. Go watch it so no one has to tell you about it.